Here with Jay Privman, flying in last night. I see you packed appropriately. It's a little chilly this morning, huh, Jay?
It's a little cooler than where I come from.
Of course, coming from the West Coast and reporting for GRF. Jay, talk about all of the works that you saw just a few days ago at Santa Anita. I believe there were 11, and you were on site to witness them all.
Yeah, there were quite a few on Friday and more on Saturday than I traveled yesterday. The best of them to me were, the West Coast is normally a very kind of indifferent workhorse. I thought his work was pretty exceptional. I thought Accelerate worked really well. He's always been kind of an okay workhorse, but his works this year have kind of mirrored his development as a horse. He's just gotten better as a worker, and obviously his races have been terrific, and that's why he's favored in the Classic. Mackenzie's certainly doing well. The one horse I was kind of nitpicky on in my story was Catalina Cruiser, who, worked great. He worked in 59 and 4. But he kind of got pushed along a little bit at the end, and usually he breezes against the bit, and I just thought it was different for him. It was still fast work and a good work, and he's still the horse to beat, I think, in the dirt mile. It was just something I took a little notice of, and I want to watch how he trains back here this week. So those were a few of the many that we saw. Game Winner was really good. Selcourt's trying to come off of a layoff to win the filly and mare sprint. I'm trying to think of all of them. There were just so many. It was like my head was spinning by the time it was over.
It's okay. I know how you feel, especially with all these taking to the track every single morning here at Churchill. But, Jay, let's dive just a little bit more into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Accelerate took to the track earlier today as well. Your overall thoughts of it? It's one of the more unusual Breeders' Cup Classics, just considering all the different avenues that the contenders are coming from.
I agree. There's so many horses in this race who I think have a chance of winning the race on their best day. Obviously, Accelerate's performances at 1.25 miles this year have been sensational. He's 3 for 3 at the distance, and that's really was a question for him coming into this year. But then you look at horses like Mind Your Biscuits and what he's accomplished this year, and West Coast having a good comeback race. We know what he's capable of on his best day. You start with those horses. Mackenzie had a nice comeback race. Axelrod's certainly gotten better. And that's not even counting all these horses that have come over from Europe. Mendelssohn's race in the Jockey Club Gold Cup was terrific. Thunder Snow has run well in his race over here. In the Jockey Club Gold Cup as well, I thought. And certainly, if you get another pace meltdown, maybe even Discreet Lover would be in the mix again. So it's really an interesting race. And there's several others in there with, Roaring Lion coming over from Europe. It's really one of the more fascinating classics I think we've seen in a long time, where you don't have like one or two standouts.
Exactly. I think we've grown accustomed to that in the past couple of years with the likes of Gunrunner and Arrogate and such. But also the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, you'll be doing the most digging for that particular race. So what are your thoughts on that? And, do you think Catalina Cruiser is a real deal? I
do. I think Catalina Cruiser is a phenomenal horse. His record is terrific, being 4 for 4. He's a big, beautiful horse. If you haven't seen him before, he's going to remind you a little bit of Justify, just in the way he looks. A big chestnut horse with a white blaze, and he's physically imposing like Justify is as well. So he looks, not that he's a Triple Crown winner, obviously, but he's built of that mold. But I think City of Light's going to run really well also. I think a one-turn mile is right up his alley. He's trained great coming into this race, and I think the two horses from the West Coast are going to be the top two in that race.
It's kind of interesting how the Breeders' Cup, especially the Dirt Mile, it changes, the configuration everywhere we go in terms of venue. Last year, the 2-turn mile at Del Mar. This year, the 1-turn mile. Don't you think handicappers really, really have to start considering this?
I do, especially, he's not running this year because he's retired, but an example of a horse who I think that really impacted last year, who would have been a major player this year, was Practical Joke, who was so much better around 1 turn than 2, and to me he was just a non-factor trying to go 2 turns last year in the Dirt Mile, whereas a 1-turn mile. So yes, I think the configuration for this year at Churchill Downs being a 1-turn mile is something that you really need to go to school on, because there might be some horses who maybe lost their punch going 2 turns who are going to be a lot more effective turning back to a 1-turn race.
Besides the Classic and the Dirt Mile, are there any particular horses that you're really excited to see on Breeders' Cup weekend?
I think, like everybody, I'm really excited to see Enable, for being a 2-time ARC winner and trying to win the turf in the same year that she won the ARC, which has never been done. And the other thing this is a different thing slightly from your question, but another thing that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing potentially happen is, no horse has ever won a Breeders' Cup race on grass and a Breeders' Cup race on dirt. It's never happened in the history of the Breeders' Cup, and Mendelssohn's going to try and do that because he won the juvenile turf last year and he's in the Classic this year. So that's an interesting aspect of this one. But if you said who's the one horse you really want to see that you haven't seen before, it's obviously an Able.
I think you're in the mix of a lot of people for sure that are excited, including myself. Well, Jay, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
I'm just wondering, who are you rooting for in the juvenile fillies turf?
I gotta go with the homer there and root for my husband, but it's going to be a really exciting year for sure.
All right, Gabby, good luck.
Thank you. All right, guys, back to you.